Well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Anne Heffron, author of You Don't Look Adopted and Instagram Ninja. And we're a couple of minutes early, but Anne, you've got the floor for about roughly half an hour. And I just need to spotlight you, I think. Oh, there we go. There you are.
Hi, so I woke up early to hear the talks, and it was both a really great thing and a not great thing, because my brain got all scrambled because they were so powerful. So I went for a walk to think about how to process what I heard and then how to present something. And I think if Laura and Gillian had been there when I was 12, my life would have been a lot easier. If they had talked to my adoptive parents, my life would have been a completely different life. But I was thinking that what Gillian did is she described my world, and it's so comforting to hear your world described in an accurate way. And I was thinking about how so many times I've said I wish I had come with an owner's manual. And as I was walking, I was thinking that her talk, if that had been the owner's manual and if that had gone to my parents, it would have been like, I had this house that had an aga, which I guess is an English thing, but it's not an American thing. And so it's this huge stove that does not operate like a normal stove, like a normal American stove. And I had no idea how to use it. It has these crazy burners and these little boxes that you cook in. And I was thinking that her talk was like, if once I got the owner's manual for the aga, I could deal with having something that was foreign in my kitchen. It was different, and I burned myself a couple of times. I forget why, but for some reason I would reach in and grab the hot pot and really burn my hand, which is not unlike an adoptive parent being with their adoptee and, grabbing the hot adoptee and getting burned. So it's helpful to hear your world described. And at the same time, you're still living with this often intense discomfort and confusion. And then when Laura was talking about stories, and she said something about the stories we created shape us. And I was thinking about how this journey that I've been on of not thinking adoption impacted me, to realizing it did, to writing a book about it, to finding that there was a whole community of people out there, and then to finally being where I am now, which has to do with my body. That I think what I got from the stories we created shape us is that my physical body is actually like a fetus and a grown-up all at once. So I am physically bent. I am physically bent forward. My shoulders roll inwards. I sleep like a fetus. I act like a fetus half the time. I'm half an adult and half a baby. And so I can recognize that. And I told my story, and that was hugely significant for me, but it actually didn't change my body. My body was in as much pain after I told my story as before. I definitely felt like I had checked off a box, an important box, and telling my story got me community. But it left me in a place that has been difficult. I didn't have a template for what to do after I told my story. Like, I didn't tell my story and my stomach stopped hurting and I felt free. And when I was walking my dog right now, my dog was on a leash and I was thinking, oh, okay, I still have myself on a leash. Like, I still have these stories of this is how much this is how much you can weigh, this is how much money you can earn, this is how successful you can be, this is how well you can do in relationship. And so these are things that I am trying to figure out now. And so I want to talk about the body because I feel like it's a process. Like, first, you need to have your world described to you in a way that feels accurate. And we've had that done for us. That's super helpful. And in some ways, if the adoptive parents don't get it, right now, that's out of my control. All I can control is how I deal with it. So I have that. I have this understanding of the importance of my story and of other adoptees' stories, so that we need to support each other in telling them and in listening to them. And what I need help with, or I need to work on myself with, is the body. And last night I was listening to LeBron James. He was on the app Calm, and I'm listening to him because I'm helping the Harvard basketball coach write her book. She's the winningest coach in Ivy League history, and she was my gym teacher in high school. And she's fought for equity for girls and women in sports for 52 years. So I really wanted to support her. So I'm not a basketball fan, but I guess I am now. So I was listening to LeBron James, and he was talking about success. And he was saying what he does to get ready for a game is he puts on his headphones so that he can hear, so that he can block out noise. And he puts essentially blinders on. So he's only looking at his focus, which is the game. And then he has a point of focus, which is the game. And I was thinking that when I was finally able to write my story, this is all connected to the body. I'm going to work from the outside in. That one of the things I've struggled with in having a body is I don't know what the point is. Like, what am I supposed to do with this body? You know, like I don't, it's really hard to find a passion. You know, like my whole life, it's just been like, what am I supposed to do? And I get so excited when I have an idea, you know, like, oh, I'll be a priest. Oh, yeah, I'll get excited. I'll be a priest. And then that dies. And then I'm back with just kind of not having a purpose. And I wanted to introduce this idea because I want to talk about it when it comes to the body. I want to talk about body and purpose because I feel like this body would be easier to have a body in the world if I felt like my energy was directed somewhere that was important to me. So now I want to talk about drugs. I did MDMA and psilocybin about 5 weeks ago with a therapist. And I had been, I barely drink, I don't take aspirin. I want to do it myself, but I saw enough people doing MDMA where I thought, I can't do what they're doing. My brain is not going to offer up what their brains are offering up when they're on MDMA. And I watched the Michael Pollan special on Netflix called How to Change Your Mind. And it was about MDMA and psilocybin and some other psychedelics. And it convinced me it was worth it. So many things happened. And what I learned is that MDMA addresses the heart and psilocybin addresses the brain. And you can't do MDMA if you're on antidepressants because of the chemicals. So it's just something to be aware of. But my daughter told me, I found out she was a student athlete at Cal, and I found out my straight-laced daughter took MDMA when it was the athletes award night, and she thought the whole celebration was for her because she was on MDMA, and she was telling me, you're going to be dancing around and it wasn't like that. The street name for MDMA is ecstasy. And what it was like was I was in a chair for 8 hours with an eye pillow on, and I was talking, and the therapist just wrote down what I said. And it was really intense. And I knew the drug was kicking in when I could feel that my body was starting to turn into a river. And for me, this was really significant because the first awareness of my body, I've written about this, was when I was 12 or 13, and I sat down at my mom's typewriter, and I was trying to describe how my body felt like a river, but with a block in it, like a stick in it. But I didn't know what to do with that. So then I just stopped writing. But when the medicine had me start feeling like a river, I realized I was going to have to raise my arms. If I really want to be a river, I was going to have to raise my arms. But my body's so tight, like even raising my arms is work. And I was thinking, I don't want to raise my arms. I thought I could just sit here and experience the drug. But I'm going to have to participate. And so I knew I had a choice in that moment. Either I could refuse to raise my arms, I could refuse to become a river, or I could just go into this experience and change. So I lifted my arms and I said to the therapist, a miracle just happened. And I let the energy go through me, and I just felt like, okay, this is what I'm so afraid of. If I let life go through me, it's going to go so fast, and then I'm going to die. Like I have no control. But I want to sit with that and face that. And I think that's all tied into feeling of a lack of focus. So when I was on MDMA, I'm not going to talk about this much, but twice I felt like I was dying. And the therapist said she's never worked with an adoptee who didn't die. And so I got to witness, I got to feel the greatest pain I've ever felt, greater than childbirth, but without the fear kicking in. So I just kept saying, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And the pain worked its way through my body, and then it came out. So I left my sessions knowing that the pain that was inside of me was even worse than I had ever imagined. And that my entire life has been about not feeling that thing. So I imagine it like this glass splinter that's full of the worst poison possible has been stuck in my intestines. And it's so painful, my body doesn't know how to process it. So I can't feel it or think about it. So my whole life, what I eat, who I hang out with, what I do has all been to not feel that. And now it's gone. And in the span of 5 weeks, my life has radically changed because that pain that I couldn't even feel is no longer my unconscious central focus. So now I can think about things like, what do I want to do with this body in a real way, not in a just, I'm scrabbling, trying not to drown kind of way. So the part about MDMA I want to talk to you about, because maybe you can do this yourself, is that there was a point in the session where I envisioned it was like someone had squirted squid ink through the top of my head, except it was orange. And it had worked its way through my body. So it was like lines of squid ink all around my organs and kind of filled up all the spaces. And I knew that ink was my adoptive parents' unlived dreams. I could feel it. It was like, oh my gosh, they're in my body. And my mom in particular, like her unlived dreams, her refusal to live completely, all her sickness is in me. And then I saw my daughter's body and I realized, oh my God, I've done it to her. And I would have told you, of course I haven't. She's separate from me, but I had to realize, Anne, are you 100% alive? Are you 100% committed to being alive? No, you have put that in your daughter. Like I say to my daughter, you live a great life. You do this. So maybe in your own body, you could picture, are your adoptive parents or whoever in your body? And that what I did on drugs, first I pulled it out of my daughter. I just pulled it out. So it was like I pulled a tab and all the ink just came out of her. And then I pulled it out of me. And then I had the sensation of understanding what a separate body is, that her body is her body. So it's separate from mine. My body is my body, and my parents' bodies are their bodies. And that changed everything. Like I just kept saying, I can't believe I have a body. I have a body. I cannot believe I have a body. So my body without my adoptive parents' bodies, and maybe even my birth parents' bodies in my body, maybe that's called being born again, but it was just like, oh my gosh. And I walked around for 36 hours after MDMA and my jaw was hanging open because I had found this new way to breathe. I had found that I could breathe right into my heart through my mouth. And so I was kind of panting for 36 hours, like, and I was feeding my heart. Like for the first time, this was my heart. This was a real heart. It wasn't just trying to survive. It wasn't just trying not to drown. It was mine. I felt the energy of it. I felt it move in my chest. It didn't feel like it was sitting. My heart always beat kind of lightly. Like I was aware of my heart not feeling settled always. So now, after the afterglow of these drugs have worn off, I'm faced with a body being a body in the same world that I exited for a little bit. And I cried for a week because I was releasing. It was like every single cell in my body was tight. And I think the way I pictured it was that, so, in your body, you have fascia, and the fascia is like saran wrap that wraps everything. It wraps your bones, it wraps your organs. If someone just pulled out your fascia, it would look like your body. And I think the way I picture it is that my fascia, this idea of the stories we created shape us, like as soon as I was born, I already had a story, and it was I am in trouble. So my fascia, what I imagine is it contracted. And the thing is, then I went to people who were not my flesh and blood, And there was no reason for my fascia to let go. There was no proof that the world was safe, right? I wasn't fed breast milk. It just kept happening. And so I think that my body is, I feel that my fascia is about a size too small for my body. And that tells my vagus nerve I'm in trouble because there's tension. So there's tension in my organs. So the organs are going to tell my brain I'm in trouble, then my brain is going to tell my organs I'm in trouble. So I have this whole systemic issue of tightness. And when Laura was talking about having a knot in her stomach, I'm starting to think that I don't have a wound. I'm not wounded, I'm knotted. And that what I can do for myself is I can untangle myself. And this has not been appealing in the past, because if in my body I still had my parents' body, why do I want to be myself? Why do I want to untangle and be this body? Because it's not even mine. So it made sense to cut off the life force, because I didn't agree to be this body with other bodies in it. So what I find now is, I mean, it makes me want to cry, actually. I can't believe that when I let myself be the river, life does wild things. Like when it was time for me to write my book, life had Kitty Stockett, this really famous writer who wrote the book, The Help, offer me her New York apartment for 3 months. Like, I don't even know her, really. And now that I'm ready to unwind, I'm learning from one of the greatest coaches alive how to be strong and how to win. It's like my best friend went to Harvard, and my mom used to say, I don't know why you didn't go to Harvard. You're just as smart as she was. And I was always like, well, I didn't go to Harvard because I don't know how to do my homework. You know, what are you talking about? And so I am now in the town that I grew up in Westwood, Massachusetts, living with my mom's best friend, who's way better than my mom. Like, my mom is dead. And so I get this cool version of my mom in the town that I grew up in. And I'm working, but I also get to unwind. When I came off of the MDMA, I canceled half of my clients because I realized I was being as busy as possible because I didn't know what else to do. But now I don't need to be busy because I need to learn how to sit down and just relax. So I take tons of naps, and I'm living with an 82-year-old. So it's normal. It's just like, this is the culture I live in now. It's gentle self-care. So I got a nutritionist because I think I am so out of control with how I treat my body with food and caffeine. And I have struggled with coffee or forms of caffeine my entire adult life. And I have not been able to give it up. And it doesn't feel like it helps me. It feels like it constricts me more. But I like the constriction, right? Like, if I am not agreeing to be myself, the constriction helps me stay caged. So I'm going to continue to eat food that makes my stomach contract. I'm going to continue to drink things that make me contract. So I went to a nutritionist because I'm trying to attack this on all fronts. And she said, could you give up dairy, gluten, and sugar for a month? And I said yes. And I just did it. Like, no problem, except 2 weeks in, which was last week. I told her, okay, I'm doing it, but I'm living on Diet Coke and popcorn. And it's called Skinny Pop. It's like $4 a bag. And I said, I can't give it up. And then I went on for 15 minutes about how I couldn't give up Diet Coke and Skinny Pop. And Diet Coke is just the worst chemicals. So I'm trying to heal my guts but I'm putting just poison in there. And then 15 minutes in, I just thought, man, you are writing a chapter for the winningest coach in Ivy League history on toughness, and you can't give up Diet Coke and Skinny Pop. So I said, forget it. I said, forget it. I just gave it up. So what I am finding, I gave up coffee. I no longer put, for these last couple of weeks, I haven't been putting in my body things that facilitate tightness. And so I have been opening up, and I feel kind of lost, kind of quiet, very, it's like someone dropped me on the moon and it's really quiet and I don't know if I'm okay or not. But yesterday, I was 2.5 weeks in with all this stuff. And yesterday I had my first day of euphoria, where I was just sitting and working and I just had a sense of well-being. And I thought, oh, okay, I think it's coming. And this gets back to allowing a sense of focus. I think it's very hard when I am not completely myself in my body. It's very hard to know if it's okay, if what I want to do is okay or not. And yesterday I had this realization. I was grocery shopping and I just thought, I just want a quiet life. I just want to go grocery shopping. I want to get a massage. I want to help a couple of people with their writing, and I want to walk my dog. And that felt like, oh, I could do that life. And I think, Gillian, you said something about when, oh, I'd better be special or I'll be given away again. And I hadn't realized how deeply rooted that was in my brain. Like there was this underlying message still of, you better do something great, you better do something great, you better do something great. And the problem with great is that can't be defined, right? And so there's always going to be something greater. So I can never rest because it doesn't matter what I do. I always got to do something different. What if I don't have to do any of that? What if it's okay if I just go grocery shopping and have a nice life? What if I don't have to prove anything? And last night, so I'm a massage therapist and I do Reiki, and I put my hand on my chest and a hand on my stomach, and the nutritionist had said, what if you're in partnership with your body? And I sat with that for a minute and I realized, sorry, let me back up for a second. I was struggling a little bit last week with the whole not eating all those foods. And I told her, could you just give me a vision of why I'm doing this? I'm forgetting, I need a vision. And she said, well, why don't you picture that you're in partnership with your body and that you're headed for the life that you want to live? And I realized oh, I'm not in partnership with my body. I don't have one body. I want to live two lives. I can't just have one vision. The track's always going to split. I can't just have one vision. So I was thinking, oh, what does it mean to be in partnership? And then I thought, my whole life I've been focused on the tracks. Am I on the right track? But I haven't been focused on the train. And if I am the train, I need to focus on the train. Is the train okay? So I put my hand on my chest last night and my hand on my stomach. And I told my body, okay, we're in partnership. And I had this sense that my hand was about 10 feet off of my body. There was so much space between my hand and my body because my body was not accepting my hand. My body was this is not a partnership. I do not, you have talked about killing me. Like, you have made me do horrible things. Like, I don't accept you. So I had to think about, why should my body trust me? And how am I going to get my body to trust me? And then I realized, okay, that's the partnership. And that's where I can go LeBron James and I can put on headphones and block out what everyone else is saying. I can put on blinders, and the rest of the world can do their thing. I got to do my thing, right? It doesn't mean I'm shut off from the world. It just means, like, for my own focus. And my point of focus isn't to be great. It's, I want to feel good in my body, and I want to help other people feel good in theirs, but not in a big way, like in a small way, because I'm well aware of my nervous system needs special attention. I have to be really, really careful of this body. This body, I think, is different from a lot of other bodies, in that the untangling, the knot is so profound in my body. It's like at Christmas, if someone took all the ribbons and just made a big knot out of them. It's going to be a lifetime of me trying to soften enough to have those unwind. And the gift will be, if I keep doing that, if I'm on my deathbed and the final ribbon comes unwound, I will bloom like the most beautiful peony, which is not special. I'm just a flower, right? But I will have bloomed, and I will have experienced what it means to be human. And that means that the people who are around me will be affected by that also, because that is love. Like, that's the full expression of love. So that's my whole journey right now. And that's what I wish for all of us, the freedom to bloom. The end.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Anne.
You're welcome.
Fantastic, as always.
Thanks for having me here.
I'm sure I'm not the only one to have visions of blooming peonies in my mind now. And yeah, and just thank you so much for joining us from Boston.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Course. It was I'm so impressed.
Oh, well, it's actually 5 years pretty much to the day that I first went to a conference and met other adoptees. So it's quite emotional for me as well to be here with everyone. Wow. Just having that moment with everyone, that sort of goosebumps moment.
Wow.
Where you know, that moment where you look around the Zoom room and you say, you don't look adopted, you know, as per your book title, but we all are. And it's been wonderful. I was wondering if anyone had any questions for Anne. I know we've got lots of thank yous coming in.